Faith on Film, a program designed to keep you aware and informed on everything that's happening at the world of faith and family entertainment. I am here in Capernaum Studios where I am attending Content 21, a place where I am finding lots of great people that are involved and are part of the faith and family entertainment or ministry sometimes, industry. Get to meet a lot of people or see a lot of people that I've met before, but here we all are together, which gives me an opportunity to bring them to you. And my guest today actually apparently says he recently joined the film family. He was more of a stage actor, but boy, when he did come in, he came in very strong. With me is Garry Nation. Garry, welcome to Faith on Film.
Thank you, Isaac.
So I'm going to let the people in on something that we actually tried to do this interview a couple of days ago, and I messed up. I totally didn't do this right. So what I want you to do is do exactly like we did that first. No, I'm just kidding. We'll see where God takes this one.
You just can't duplicate a conversation unless you've already got it in a script. And
right.
And everybody should know this is not a scripted thing here. No, absolutely not.
This is
you never know what's going to come up in a situation like this.
But we certainly can get started with how you got involved in acting.
Well, I've been interested in acting just since I was a kid. Like a little boy who watches a magician,
right,
and thinks, I want to know how he did that and see if I can do that too. Well, that's the way I've looked at actors, and I began studying actors, the really fine actors, and the ones who were reputed to be good actors. And why is it that people say that these are really good actors? And I began to look at that, and I began to also take to heart what some of them were saying. Like Spencer Tracy, I remember somebody asked him, "What does it take to be a good actor?" And he said, "Never let them catch you acting."
Uh-huh.
And so learning what he meant by that and how to put that into practice. How do you act in such a way that they don't see you acting? That's been kind of a lifelong avocation of mine and a lifelong pursuit. At a certain point, I began to get involved, and I had some college stage experience, some college, just a couple of things. But my main occupation is Christian ministry. And throughout my ministry, I've used dramatic things in ministry presentations. I've done, I learned how to read. That's a skill. That's not just.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
That's just not knowledge. That's a skill. And learning how to read, and really make sense of something, and show expression, and cause people to feel something, and not just get it into the left brain, as focus. And there was one time that I preached the Sermon on the Mount.
So you're a preacher too?
I'm a preacher.
Okay.
I preached the Sermon on the Mount, had a smart aleck deacon say, you'll never preach a better sermon than that. Well, and such things as that, doing characters, monologues, characters, sometimes in full costume and stage makeup, and all of that. And so I've done some of that because that was my interest, and that's what I wanted to do. Later on, we got involved in a church that produced biannually a major stage production of an Easter pageant with all the bells and whistles and good scripts and so forth. And from the first time from early on when we joined that church, the first year we joined that church, they had that pageant going on. They couldn't do it annually because it would soak up all of the church's resources to do just that one outreach thing. But it was a significant outreach that the church had and preaching the gospel. And I was involved in every one of those that was produced from the time that we joined that church until the last one that was that has been produced, including after we moved away from the city, and I came back and appeared in that. So it was significant stage experience, and it really gave me a leg up in working with and doing characters on stage and learning that. But in 2011, a friend of mine who had written a Broadway-style musical on the story of Esther really drafted me to play and sing the role of Mordecai, which is the lead role in that.
So you're a singer too. Look at that. I'm learning all these wonderful things about you.
It was a the biggest and best role that I had ever had. Very challenging, both dramatically and vocally, monologue heavy. And I really felt validated as an actor. And by the way, the play was a hit. It was a short run, but it was a hit in that local audience. And I really felt validated to be able to say, with some credibility, I'm an actor. And to actually admit that, you know, without, and to be able to say that publicly, that, you know, among other things that I do, I'm an actor. But it was that play led to my very first film role, playing Rabbi Meir in the feature film Indescribable.
Okay.
And it's a wonderful little film. It's the story of the writing of the hymn, The Love of God, as told through the eyes of the children of the man who wrote it. But I play an 11th century German rabbi.
German rabbi.
Yes. And I'm on screen for 4 minutes max in that film. It was a one-day film shoot for me. And I'm on screen 4 minutes max, but it's a pivotal role. It's an impact role. The whole plot turns on what happens to my character. And so it's one of those things that really shows up. It is that role, and then the film was released in 2013. And that role directly led to my first starring role in the title role of the motion picture about the 2nd century Christian martyr, Polycarp.
Polycarp. That's the first film that I saw you on. I'll tell you what, though. Let's take a little break. We'll come back. Let's talk about Polycarp, and then whatever else because I'm sure since then, I mean, it wasn't just 1 or 2 films. I think since then you've kind of really carried on quite a bit in film, haven't you? Have you done any more stage, though?
Some.
All righty. Folks, we're going to come back and learn a little bit more about what Garry Nation has done in the film industry, all right? So don't go away. We'll be right back.
This is Holly on Hollywood.
Hi, I'm Holly McClure with a Holly on Hollywood movie review. Let's take a look.
Uncle Casey, can we just stay for one night?
One night.
Clifford, the Big Red Dog is a delightful family film based on the popular children's book series. Emily, played by Darby Camp, is a middle schooler who has trouble making friends. She feels all alone until she's given a red puppy to love and care for. She makes a wish and wakes up to see a 10-foot supersized Clifford. With her mother away on business, Emily and her Uncle Casey, Jack Whitehall, take Clifford to see a vet to make him small again. But soon their trip turns into a wild day in New York. Clifford makes the news, a genetics company tries to steal him, and it's up to Emily and her uncle to save Clifford. John Cleese and Tony Hill also star. The PG is for mild bathroom humor when Clifford goes potty, and a few weird scenes like Clifford accidentally eating a small dog then spitting him out, or a bizarre two-headed goat is created at the genetics company. Clifford's a story full of adventure, funny dialogue, chase scenes. Clifford plays fetch with a kid inside a bumper ball. Emily drives a getaway truck, and my favorite scene, Emily galloping through the streets of New York City on the back of Clifford. Camp is perfectly cast as Emily, and Cleese is always a delight. There are lessons about the power of love, believing in yourself, and being unique. With more than 50 Clifford books since 1963, old and young will enjoy Clifford, the Big Red Dog.
Full of love.
He's slipping!
Made you feel like you could do anything.
Your dog just saved my life!
I'm getting Clifford out of here. You know how to drive? How hard can it be? I'm grounded for life, aren't I?
You and me both.
He eats like an animal.
He is an animal.
I'm talking about him.
What?
Remember to choose your movies wisely.
Welcome back to Faith on Film, coming to you from Capernaum Studios, where I am part of the Content 2021 media conference, and I'm sitting here with Garry Nation, who, when I first met you, of course, I totally had you pegged as that theater actor, because you've got that aura of theater, whatever that is. I don't even know how to describe that other than I just felt you were theater. But then I saw you in a film called Polycarp. Tell us a little bit about that film, because I love the film.
Oh, it's a wonderful picture, if I do say myself. I mean, I love when I saw it, and I saw the casting announcement came up on the Indescribable Facebook page, is where I saw it. And it turns out that Rebecca Cook, who had worked on the cast, in the crew and cast of Indescribable, was working with the casting on Polycarp. But she had posted that. But I saw this notice, and I knew from my study of church history that I knew about Polycarp. And so I was fascinated by the project, and I read on, said, well, filming to be taking place in the Cincinnati, Ohio area. And thought, like, I'm going to go to Ohio to make a movie, right? But a couple of weeks later, I got a personal email from Rebecca Cook inviting me to audition, to send in a video audition for the lead role of Polycarp. And I'm thinking, now what?
The lead role.
And so, but I didn't know how to send in a video audition. I'd never done that before, but tried to figure it out, sent in what I hoped would be passable for that. And then, you know, you never know, but you wait a couple of weeks. Well, the Lord was working on both sides of all of this.
Right.
And it was, I was meant to play that role. I mean, it was just, all of my training, I think, had just led me up to this and brought me into this. So when I was offered that role, and I gladly accepted it, and I knew I was going to have a great time. I thought, this is going to be a blast, and it was. And it was wonderful. And young filmmakers who were working on, I think the average age of the crew must have been about 22.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, maybe 20, you stretch the whole thing with, including the old guys like me, maybe the average age might have gone up to 24.
But take away that outlier.
I mean, it was really, but it was fantastic experience. What I was not prepared for was that it was going to be one of the most intense, prolonged spiritual experiences of my life.
Wow.
And I was not prepared for it to change my life. And people were asking toward the end of shooting, said, well, what are you going to be doing next? And I said, I didn't know I was going to be doing this. I don't know what I'm going to be doing next. Had a long 2-day drive home after shooting that film, in which me and the Lord had some conversations, and they were pretty much mostly one-sided, because the Lord had already done his talking.
Right.
But me asking, Lord, what have you just done here? What is going on? And the Lord was kind of like, just wait and see, be patient. But that film, it was released in 2015. And that film, by the way, before that year was over, I was cast in another film, another feature film, My Grandpa Detective, which was shot in Alberta, Canada during the polar vortex. Oh. Seemed like a good idea at the time.
So acting is not necessarily glamorous.
But it's still always a blast. Sometimes a winter blast, but it's always a blast. It was Polycarp really that was the doorway from what I'm doing now. I did not expect to be doing this in the third act of my life.
Wow.
But it's something I always wanted to do, but I had put it into the hands of the Lord. Lord, if you ever want me to do any acting, if you ever want me to be in film, that's completely in your hand.
Yeah.
And that's what he's given me.
I think that actually a lot of times our final purpose that we're designed to do is way in our later years, and that first part is just our preparation for that. And sometimes it's things that don't even seem like they apply to that. But when we get there, we go, man, if I didn't do this, I don't think I would have been able to do this over here now. So, yeah, you're only getting started.
You know the old gospel song, wouldn't take nothing for my journey now.
Yep. Yep. So I think you've got a lot to go still. What other films are you now preparing to do? Do you have some lined up?
Oh yes. I'm going to be working on a short film in a couple of weeks for a young filmmaker. I'm in next month. At the end of next month, I expect to be going to Iowa to be shooting a feature film set in the World War II era, based on a true story. I've been cast in the film prospective to be shot probably in 2022, called David's Star. Looking forward to that. The cast announcements are being made on that.
Can you share what character you'd be playing? Or is it still a secret?
Oh, it's not really a secret, but I don't know exactly how much. But I'll just tell you, when I looked at the sides and the character that I kind of envisioned in my mind was sort of a Lou Grant kind of a character.
Okay.
You know, just the office curmudgeon.
See, by the way, that's how I know you were involved in theater, is that the vocabulary is amazing. Okay, and so you're are you noticing that maybe something in the past had prepared you for this particular role?
No, not anything particular. It's just that just the overall. I was just talking to one of the young actors yesterday. They were brought up and introduced to me before the meal last night, and then I was just chatting with them, and one of them was a young man, and I asked him what kind of things he had done, and he told me, he said, "He's a kind of typecast here," and that just triggered something on my mindset. And what I told him was, "I've got one word for you: make peace with your type." You know, we always you hear you're such bad mouthing. I don't want to be typecast.
Right.
And I said, "Do you want to be cast?"
Okay. Sometimes it takes it for you to find the type and be that.
Make peace with your type,
okay.
Because and discover, because it's kind of comparable to me to making peace with the spiritual gift that God's given you, rather than covet the spiritual gift that God's given to somebody else. Receive it with humility. Receive the gift with humility.
Amen.
That's what we're taught in Romans chapter 12, verses 1 and 2 and 3. Amen. And receive the gift in humility. Well, likewise, your type is part of how God made you and how God put you together and how God has prepared you as an actor. So I figured out early on what is my type, and I made peace with that and didn't try to work again. Now, the interesting thing, the role that I've got in Vindication, I have a guest star role on Vindication, season 2, episode 4.
Okay.
At this taping, I believe that's going to be released in next week's release in the Vindication series. If those who are Vindies out here that are watching.
Right. Okay.
And I play a role that is completely against type.
Oh.
So just because you've got a type doesn't mean that you can't leave it. But within that type, there is still a very wide. The Lord has given me opportunity to play a wide role of characters, and I'm just so grateful. In my very short film career, I've done an awful lot, and gotten to do an awful lot. And yet at the same time, it seems like it's been so slow. And yet I look back and think, that really happened fast.
So how can people follow you so they can keep up with all that you're doing?
Well, they can check me out, GarryNation.com. There are 2 R's in Garry. Okay. And that's my actor page. They can find me on Facebook, Garry Nation Actor. And they can check out my the track that I've been on I've got an IMDb page for those who follow that. And so
all right.
Different ways.
Well, thank you for taking time. I know there's a lot of stuff going on
Isaac.
here today, and I appreciate you taking the time and sharing your story with us.
Well, I enjoyed it. That's just, there are 10,000 things we got to talk about today. I appreciate the fact that
we're going to have to do several shows at some point. All right.
But I appreciate what we did get to talk about.
Great. Folks, don't go away. We'll be right back.
This is Holly on Hollywood.
Hi, I'm Holly McClure with a Holly on Hollywood movie review. Let's take a look.
Bruce Wayne.
The Batman stars Robert Pattinson as conflicted Bruce Wayne by day, Batman by night. This is an origin story about a young Batman seeking vengeance for his parents' death before ultimately fighting for justice. When a sociopath starts killing the mayor and other leaders, leaving riddles for Batman, he's joined by Selina, aka Catwoman, to hunt for the Riddler. But even when the mystery is solved, is the threat to Gotham really over? Zoe Kravitz, Paul Dano, Colin Farrell, and Jeffrey Wright star. This is a darker PG-13, best for mature teens to adults for many reasons. At almost 3 hours, it has more mob violence, elaborate fight scenes, language, drugs, adult scenes like pole dancers in a bar, sexy costumes but no nudity, than the recent, more tween-friendly Batman movies. Batman faces numerous enemies and uncovers corruption in Gotham City that connects to his own family. The plot is more detective story than ultimate action hero, uniquely done and well-directed. Patterson delivers a young, humanized Batman. Kravitz is perfect as the feline fatale who knows how to fight. Farrell is literally unrecognizable as the Penguin, and the Riddler doesn't wear creepy makeup, but he's still a crazy killer. Themes about forgiveness, the cost of vengeance, social media lies, the elites robbing the poor, and corrupt politicians feels weirdly familiar. And while there are no end credits, the end scene definitely leaves an opening for a sequel.
All these years, you lied to me, Alfred. We all have our scars, Bruce. You're still away.
He's involved in this?
No, he's not involved.
How do you know? He's a vigilante.
Who are you under there? What are you hiding?
Selena, they'll throw your life away.
Don't worry, honey. I got 9 of them.
It can be cruel, poetic, or blind. But when it's denied, it's through violence you may find
Justice. The answer's justice.
Come on, vengeance. Let's get into some trouble.
Remember to choose your movies wisely.
Welcome back to Faith on Film, to our Holly on Hollywood segment with Holly McClure. Holly, how you doing today?
Good to be with you, Isaac, as always, and looking forward to doing shows with you. I love this.
Excellent. Well, we just saw your review basically on Batman. What else can you tell us about that?
You know, from what you saw, this is a darker version. It stars Robert Pattinson, of course, and it's really the early years. It's kind of when he was going out for vengeance because of his parents' death, and he was going for vengeance and wanting to get revenge for what happened. And then through the course of the movie, he learned some things about his family and connected in crime, and it turns into going for justice. And so I liked it. But it is dark. It is not for kids. I saw people there with like 5 and 7 and 8 year olds. It is not a movie for that. There is some graphic violence. There are scenes that, not much sexual innuendos, but there's just things that, again, with the graphic violence that kids don't need to be exposed to. So it's not the kid-friendly kind of former Batman movies that we've seen. It's not that.
but yet, I guarantee you, they push it pretty hard towards the family viewing, toward kids, don't they?
They really do. I noticed that they're really kind of making it look like, oh, it's wham bam.
Right.
It's again, it's not like the other ones, like the wham bam, and the cars and the fun stuff. This is again more criminal element. The Joker does not have the weird makeup, so it's not like that. The Penguin, Colin Farrell, I'm telling you, you will not even recognize that it's him. He's the Penguin. Again, they're caricatures, but they're not the makeup-y, goofy face, looking like a penguin, walking like it's not that. So I think for mature teens, your mature teen definitely, can see it. To adults, and I think there's definitely something to talk about with the crime and the themes that standing up for justice. And it really focuses what social media does and the power of social media and how it hurts people. And so I kind of like that. And corrupt politicians, I like that. And all of a sudden I was like, this kind of feels like today in politics today. It's not so much a movie. It's like really happening. So anyway, I liked it. It was good.
Now, there's got to be some movies out there for kids right now, doesn't there?
Well, there is, as a matter of fact. And in movie theaters, they've got the Lego Batman movie. It's called Lego Batman Classic. So I thought if you want to take kids to Batman, you can go to the theater and you can watch that because it's Legos and it's funny and it's, makes fun of everything. So that's a kid-friendly thing to go see. You definitely can go do that. Sing 2, there's a sing-along Sing 2 now where kids can sing the songs. And that's in theaters right now. So that's kind of fun to take kids to if you want a theater experience. And then Encanto, that is like got the sing along as well. And so again, there are some kid friendly things there in the theaters if you want to take kids to.
I'm amazed at how many kids actually get taken to some of these more mature films, though.
Yes, and that's the thing. It breaks my heart that there's. In fact, we're talking about a few today that I'm like, kids are going to go see this because parents think, oh, the stars, my kids love these stars. But just because they do a movie doesn't mean it's appropriate for your kids to go see. And that's why we're here today to say, let's talk about it. But you have to discern for yourself. Yeah. I always say in my things, choose your movies wisely. It is between you to decide what your kids can accept or not accept. Sometimes I just think, though, subjecting kids to a violent movie, those are images in a child's mind that they need to not have there.
Yeah, and they add so much, even if it's slight, but so much sexual innuendo now in some of these kids' films. Or I should say these films that are not kids' films, but kids go see them.
Right. And in Batman, too, there's kind of this tension between Catwoman and him, but it really is not so focused on that. It's more on the other part. Okay. But there's some things for kids to go see. There's another movie that's out right now. It's an Oscar contender. It's called The Outfit. Okay. And I love this movie. It takes place in the late 50s in Chicago. He's called a cutter because he doesn't call himself a tailor. He says, no, I cut design suits for men. And while he has this little shop, and all of it takes place in his shop, these men come in that get fitted for suits, and then men come in and go to the back of the store and they take things out of a box and drop things into a box. And you find out, of course, it's criminals, and there's a criminal element in the city, but he just goes about his business. He says, I don't see what's going on. And then the course of events that take place with his very first customer, who was head of the crime syndicate and crime boss there, it shows what happens in the course of the film, different characters coming in. He has an assistant, a beautiful young assistant. She wants to travel, etc. But by the end of it, until the very last scene, I'm like, oh my gosh, you had me and I didn't realize it. Definitely for mature teens to adults. There's definitely a couple people that are murdered. It's not real graphic, but it's real intense. It's just but it's well done, well written, well acted. The guy who's the lead is an Academy Award winner, Mark Rylance, and he's just so good. And the girl that's in it, Zoe Deutsch, her mother is Leah Thompson from Back to the Future. So it's kind of interesting to see her in this film. All right, so where do people go again if they want to hear more about these movies? Let's go to your website where they can find me for Holly McLaren, Holly on Hollywood. Of course, Isaac carries on Faith on Film, and you can contact me there. And if you have questions or you want to review for a certain movie, let me know. All right. Folks, that's it for today. Thank you for joining us. See you next week.